Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our session, Top Tips to Implementing a Mobile Workforce Management Solution. My name is Trevor Morrison, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. Edward Backhouse is the Vice President of Customer Journey, with responsibility from solution architecture for enhancements, implementations, and customer training, customer success management, and technical support. Ed has 18 years experience in the IT industry across project implementations, and the last 9 years specifically on the Salesforce platform, leading solution architecture for implementation partners such as Cloud Sherpas and Accenture. Ed's customer success team spans across Australia, Vietnam, America, and the UK. I'll let Ed take it away now and run through our agenda.
Hi everyone, and thank you for attending. Today we're going to go through a few of the top tips that I've got here around integrations and in particular making customer data mobile and putting it online so that it can be used by mobile apps, implementation considerations around device selection and device capabilities, managing workforce skills, and this is really around matching the right worker with the right job at the right time, tracking resources in the field and getting data real time in the field, and notification preferences around new jobs and appointments, and really how fast changing jobs can be for some customers. And then I'll wrap up. So the first topic here is really around making customer data mobile. A few of the key challenges that a lot of our customers and prospects really have are around aging technology and how to handle on-premise systems that might be very complicated and very embedded in your businesses, and how to get that data online and able to be made available to mobile devices, which are typically online, as I mentioned. Also, how can that data be made available offline on the mobile and handle areas with low signal or no signal, and ensure that all of the right sort of data security rules are being followed, and that there is appropriate encryption, etc., on devices. So really this all begins with understanding what data do you need to complete your business processes out in the field. So if you have different types of work that is done, typically that would be done through mapping different business processes and working out what source data you need to mobilize to people in the field. Typically, it's around customer data. What is the person's name you're visiting? What is their address? What are their preferences, etc. Billing data for the products and services that you're going to execute out in the field. Potentially timesheet data for payroll, things like that, and leave and availability, and operational data. So this is typically things like what could be paper forms out in the field, or could be various checklists, etc., that are done. And really, once you've assessed all the different types of data and where they reside now, you can then take the step of working out how to mobilize that data into a mobile app such as Skedulo. So the way this is typically enabled is by either migrating your legacy on-premise solutions into cloud-based solutions or SaaS solutions, or keeping your legacy on-premise applications and using middleware or integration services to expose that data to online services. Just to talk a little bit about software as a service. So it's typically a pay-per-use model. So it is usually cheaper than having the overheads of running servers yourselves with your IT department. It's cloud-based, so it's fully online. It automatically handles things that are involved in administering the servers. So things like I need more space, I need more users, I want to optimize memory, I want to handle security and authentication. They're all automatically provided as part of the service. And they are also typically automatically exposed to APIs, which are for integration. Skedulo is a SaaS-based solution that is online. There are 3 versions of Skedulo. There is Skedulo for Salesforce, which is based natively on the Salesforce platform. There is Skedulo for ServiceNow, which is based natively on the ServiceNow platform or database. And then there's Skedulo standalone, the Skedulo platform, which isn't reliant on either of those services and integrates with customers' APIs to sort of bring in and out data as needed. Part of Skedulo is the scheduling interface, which is available via a web app or sort of a web page experience, and also the mobile app, which is native on Android and iOS and works offline, and it's secure. In the mobile app, typically it's configured to display all of your operational data and capture things like signatures and photos. Also, the mobile app is accessible to different types of users. For example, we have users that are vision impaired. And so we just recently went on site with the Royal Society of the Blind and shadowed some users that are vision impaired to make sure that their screen readers were working correctly. In their instance, they were using the iOS accessibility features. And we've since then performed a series of improvements to our mobile app to optimize its usage for vision impaired users. So back to the main topic. Typical integrations, some of them are listed here. These are some pre-built integrations, and there are a lot of others that we've done with customers as well. But it might be easiest to explain if I walk you through an example. This is an example of a customer mobilizing their data from an on-prem to on-premise databases. So on the left-hand side of the diagram, we have customer data, or for example, a CRM that is on-premise, and another database that is for billing data. And they have used middleware to expose that data to the Skedulo platform via web services. And then users can make use of out-of-the-box Skedulo functionality to create jobs and schedule them to workers in the field. And the workers in the field would use their mobile app to complete work and travel around and make their customers happy. On the completion of all of their work, a common scenario is that all of that data around the jobs they've performed or the shifts that they've been on, together with what activities they've performed in the field, might be automatically summarized in the form of a timesheet, approved, and sent off to payroll for pay. So in this way, Skedulo is sort of sitting in between some of the on-premise databases and a cloud-based payroll solution. The second tip I've got for you is around cross-device compatibility. So a real challenge that a lot of prospects, as they're sort of coming on board with Skedulo, have is around what kind of mobile devices should I get for my workers in the field? Or if they already have devices, are those devices appropriate? So I've created this little table to just show a few examples of when is the right use case to use a smartphone versus a tablet versus a laptop or computer. Some of the considerations are around, do you need to track where the resource is with the GPS? Is that important for your business? What level of detail of notes do you need to take? Are you going to record notes via audio and have it converted into text? So the very brief sort of notes that you might, or type them on your phone briefly, or is it fairly detailed? They might want a sort of Bluetooth connected keyboard to a tablet, or use the tablet keyboard, or are they really detailed notes? Then really they should be using a laptop or a computer in that kind of scenario. Are they taking photos, capturing signatures, and are they managing products and services out in the field? So by far the most common use case is using a smartphone in these different scenarios. And what we would strongly recommend is trying to get the most modern smartphones you can. We have had issues with customers that have bought, 3-year-old sort of Windows tablets and then wondered why they've had issues with, connecting properly online and having issues with battery life, for example. So, as I mentioned on this next slide here, battery life is really important. And if you are going to be using fine grain sort of tracking of GPS, which, does use a bit of battery life, it's important that your workers, for example, have devices that can last through the whole day, or the ability to charge their device while they're in the field. It's also important that it's a very easy to use app and sort of device, and can be intuitive for users to really pick up and run with. It's also important that it has the right accessibility features for your workforce. So if you have different sorts of accessibility requirements in your workforce, you need to make sure that the device caters and has different settings to enable things like high contrast and high visibility and sort of screen reader functions, etc. The third tip is around making sure that you select an app that can consider matching the right worker with the right job. And I'll expand on that because there's a few complexities. I'll show you a simple scheduling scenario. Pretend there are 1,000 workers in the field and they all have different locations that they begin their work from, and a whole lot of different skills. Their skills might be things like certifications or experience levels that they have. They also might be things like sort of effectively what customers might consider preferences, like do I prefer a male or a female staff member? And, do they have a driver's license and things like that? So complex amount of number of users and a complex amount of attributes for those users. On the right-hand side, we have jobs, and jobs are created from a combination of customer preferences, what kind of product or service needs to be delivered, the location of the job, and the preferences on time. The customer may also have preferences on time and date, and the duration of the job. And so the icon in the middle is to represent that really there's a demand for a complex optimization engine that can look at all of the jobs for a region over a day and look at all of the different resources that are available or not available, what types of skills they have, whether those are hard requirements or soft requirements for different sorts of skills or attributes, and optimize the day based on all of this information. A few of the things I mentioned here are customer preferences. Customer preferences really need to be a key driver for businesses to be successful, and that should really be a core part of a mobile workforce management app, and taking into those account first. The cost of the worker is also another really important factor. So an example from Skedulo is that staff members may have simple cost models, like here is their average hourly rate and here is their overtime rate, or they may have complex cost models. And so we have pre-built integrations to a number of award interpreters that can handle things like how many jobs can there be in a shift, how many shifts can you do in a week, how close can those shifts be to each other, and what is the cost of an entire roster of shifts. So being able to cost down to a job level, optionally a shift level if your organization uses shifts, or a roster level, can be really key in working out, are you breaking any award conditions, and what is the cost of assigning any particular worker to a particular job. So some organizations also have preferences around assigning work to their full-timers first, before they assign work to their part-timers, before they assign work to their casuals, before they assign work to their contractors. Understanding that cost of worker is really critical in moving the needle in having a good workforce management solution. The other thing I mentioned a little around optimization was constraints, and really working out what is a hard requirement versus a preferred or soft requirement, and different levels of soft, if you like, so that you can set up rules that the optimizer can obey. And I mentioned an example before when I talked about assigning work to the full-timers before assigning work to the part-timers. The fourth tip I have is around real-time tracking and data from the field. Some of the challenges, as you probably are aware, is around how much data will be used on your mobile device, and thinking about that when you're choosing your solution. Are you going to be downloading large files before they can complete their work, or largely only small amounts of data? What kind of connectivity does your device need? Do you have resources that will be traveling remotely with no coverage or very low coverage or low bandwidth? And around resource tracking, this is more important to some businesses than others, but it's around seeing where your resources are in real time on a map if you're a scheduler, and tracking what was the planned route for that person versus what route they took, and being able to see that visually on a map as well. So a couple of considerations to think about during your assessment are, will the solution allow me to track when workers accept the work, where they are and what time they start travel, finish travel, check in, and sort of start and finish the job? Do you need to know the geolocation where the resource was when they changed the status of the job through that life cycle, and make sure that they're not at the pub when they started the job? If so, then that's an important consideration. And also, is there real-time visibility to sort of see where everyone is in the field? This can also be from a safety perspective, in terms of understanding where your resources are and that they're where they're meant to be. A few considerations here around syncing and tracking are, when you're logging in for the day, will it sync all of the data to your device that you need, so that if you lose coverage and need to work offline, will the app keep working? And, can you get away with Wi-Fi only to do the sync if, for example, the 4G network goes down? The second consideration is around tracking and GPS navigation. So not only should the resource be able to, understand traffic conditions while they're traveling, but they should also be able to get updates about when their appointments are changing or cancelled, and they should be able to change the granularity that they're using for tracking where they are in the field. So I've got a few examples down the bottom, and these are all important factors that can impact battery drainage on the device. The first one is super fine-grained setting. This basically tracks a resource down to within 10 meters of accuracy, and it's basically tracking them continually the whole time in the background on the super fine-grained setting. The fine grain is slightly less frequent tracking, around about every minute, and it's within 150 meters of granularity. The coarse grain is, every 5 minutes and within 500 meters, and obviously uses a lot less battery life because it's using the GPS less. And so having the flexibility to sort of change between the granularity of tracking can be important for a lot of businesses. The fifth tip is around notifications and around how users in the field have preferences around how they receive updates to jobs or new jobs. An important consideration here is around allowing resources to set their own preferences on how they want to be informed about new jobs, cancelled jobs, new shifts, shift offers, scheduled changes, etc., without having to sort of like go and check their email. I guess traditionally what's happened here is that a lot of people have received phone calls from the scheduler, or received like calendar appointments that, you know, may or may not sync very effectively. They may be reliant on emails and looking at schedules via emails, which then constantly change. And it becomes a giant mess. So I guess a key factor here is real-time notification and using the approach that is preferred by the resource in the field at an individual level. So the options that are most common are push notifications, which is basically a little pop-up that appears whether you're in the app or not, but it pops up on your mobile phone, much like a sort of a Facebook comment, if you like. And the second most popular one is SMSs or text messages. And so allowing the user in the field to set their preference and then receive communications via that. And also be able to do things like declare their availability. For example, their normal working hours might be Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and they would like to declare that they're available to do an overtime shift on Thursday night or an overtime job. Or alternately, that they're unavailable tomorrow because they're sick, or you might even only give somebody an hour's notice and say, I'm sick today. And making sure that the scheduler is both aware of that and also aware of the downstream impact to jobs that need to be rescheduled. So giving users in the field the ability to set their preference. So just to wrap up some key takeaways from today's session, the 5 tips that I've been through are: number 1, identifying the challenges involved in integration and getting the key data you need efficiently to your mobile workforce. Number 2, knowing the right devices for your use case and understanding device compatibility with your desired or implemented solution. Number 3, understand how scheduling rules work and how to apply this to your mobile worker selection criteria. Number 4, how tracking works and what level of granularity you might need to track your mobile team effectively. Number 5, notifications and, you know, how important they are, that they can be, you know, really user driven and based on resources preferences. So Skedulo is a modern mobile workforce application. It's Saas based, as I mentioned at the start of this call, and it's flexible to fit a lot of different use cases and industries. It is powerful enough to be used for enterprises. We have some customers with up to 25,000 users and others with as small as 10. So it is extensive and flexible. We have native options on both Salesforce and ServiceNow, and we also have a Skedulo standalone platform that can be connected into any system. We are secure, everything's encrypted, the data on the mobile app is encrypted. We are also HIPAA compliant and GDPR. And we have both a web app, which can be used for all of the scheduling, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, and a mobile app, which is on iOS and Android, that can be used by all of your workers in the field. We have more than 100 customers and over 50,000 users out in the field. Some of the common use cases for Skedulo are healthcare, manufacturing and field service, commercial services, home services, non-profits, and a whole lot of other sectors too. We have more than 5 million appointments scheduled in the field. And as you can see on the right, there's a real uplift in increased visibility in on-site job execution, customer satisfaction, resource utilization, and reduced time to schedule. And these can be really game-changing facts for, you know, businesses. Just spinning the needle a little on some of these stats can make a significant difference to the bottom line. This is a quick view of some of our customers from around the world, and we'd be happy to talk to you more about any of these. If you've got questions, feel free to contact us at marketing@skedulo.com or fill out the form that is on the bottom of the page. And thank you very much for your time.